it's too easy to throw these names out, but it's important to mention their names. With Jim Turner and Lou Anarumo, who he has connections with. Jim Turner, he feels really close with for what's happened with him and how he's worked with him in his career. I think those two guys specifically, and you can look around at different guys, but those two guys, it's going to take someone saying, Zach, got to move on. I don't think that it's going to be one of those things where Zach makes the hard cut decision of, hey, Lou, this is a tough conversation. Maybe it's Jim Turner as well. You got to go. And I don't see that playing out in the middle of the season, because I think Zach is, as he's told you guys, the fans, as he's told us, the media and everyone, is so married to keeping this culture, this thing that he's building, and having everyone along for the ride with it and not kind of just blowing it up. Zach said this week, I don't want a quick fix. And people keep asking, what does a quick fix mean? What is he talking about? You know, he's trying to build this culture. What does he mean when he says he doesn't want to kind of tear it down and have a quick fix? I think at times he's talking about things like that. When Marvin did that, when he took over as defensive coordinator, the first couple of games, I mean, you guys probably recall, it's like, wow, this is kind of working a little bit. Like what Marvin's doing is working. And I think people thought that it might work, and it didn't in the end. With what happened with Ken Zampese.
Oh, gosh. Oh, Z. Oh, boy.
You know, that didn't work really that well either. And it's because this team's been losing consistently since 2016. So I think Zach means that when he says, I don't want to have a quick fix. Lou, you're out. Jim Turner, you're out. And bring someone else in. I think he wants to try to continue to play this out. That may be to his faults. That may not be a good
because then if they keep playing, like if they have a couple games, well, then he's just going to keep them in the next year. And then, like, are you really changing the culture going forward if you're going to end up like, granted, like Paul Gunther had a couple of those games. Like we were touch up on the TJ Yates game against Houston 2015. Like guys that shouldn't win end up winning. But overall, they were pretty good at closing football games. Their defenses are pretty stout, but Anarumo does not give me that type of comfort that our defense can win a football game.
No. And some of his, I just thought it was incredibly weird and odd. And again, I'm just a fan, but to play back and go into like a zone without a zone coverage, without blitzing or putting any sort of pressure on Phil Rivers, which has been, I mean, the tape has been the sauce all year. How do you get these older quarterbacks, you know, how do you get them to make mistakes and seem flustered? You put pressure on them. Just because we're up 21-0 doesn't mean you don't. You have a young defense that doesn't know how to play with the lead and doesn't know how to play conservatively. And you're giving a quarterback, a very experienced quarterback, that is, to sit there and sit in the pocket and look for holes in a zone. Like, I thought that was incredibly – I thought that was really – I don't know how I want to put this. Not sad, but just the wrong call altogether. And it definitely showed and led to them coming back. We made Phillip Rivers' old noodle arm that he was being called, you know, the week before look like an all-pro. And we lost 3 quarters of that game, and we only won one of them, and that was the opening quarter. Let me give you a hypothetical, and that's kind of my part of the job here on this podcast. But let's say Minnesota does go down and they do end up getting rid of Mike Zimmer. And at the end of the year, we do have to have that tough conversation. Well, Coach Taylor, you're going to stay, but the defensive coordinator position is open. Is Mike Zimmer too big now of a name to even start to even consider as potentially reuniting with us? Or do you think he's going to be a head coaching candidate and he's kind of put the Bengals chapter behind him?
I would say this, and there's the reason why I was smiling when you're asking that question. If Mike Zimmer is available, you drive the biggest stretch limo you can find up to Minneapolis, and you wine him and you dine him. You take him to Cheesecake Factory a couple of times.
Yeah.
Oh, weird. Big spender, Joe.
You let him get an extra piece of cheesecake if he wants.
Yeah.
But seriously, if Mike Zimmer was willing to come, I mean, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Yeah, absolutely. That would be, hey, Lou, it's been great. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. I mean, you would certainly want Mike Zimmer. But what I would have to say, John, is that I would have to see what openings there were at the end of the year. And I've got to think there's always at least, it seems, 4 or 5. How is Adam Gase not fired yet?
Right.
Okay, is there truth to Eric Bieniemy like coming? He interviewed with us, right? Did we not want him, or did he not want to come with us? Because then that's going to be the next topic, because he's going to go somewhere, and we're going to be like, oh, we could have had Eric Bieniemy at something that happened.
The only version that I know, Sam, that I can tell you, and there's probably another version out there somewhere, is that the Bengals fell so in love with Zach Taylor in his interview that he won the interview, that he won the job. I can't tell you whether or not Eric Bieniemy said no. I think Eric Bieniemy wants to be a head coach. He deserves to be a head coach. People will say, well, Andy Reid's the guy that calls plays. Eric Bieniemy is in his left pocket, man. He is learning every single day from one of the greatest, most innovative, creative play callers in the game. Eric Bieniemy, I think, would make a very interesting hire as a head coach. I don't know if he's fit to be a head coach in the NFL, but he certainly can call some plays. So I don't know. The only thing I can tell you is that I knew they were so overwhelmed with how Zach presented himself, what he was like, all that they wanted him. But I think to fully answer your question, sometimes it takes me a while to get there.
It's all right.
They could,
Same with us. Don't worry about it.
if they could get Mike Zimmer back here as DC, I mean, yeah, again, like I said, take a limo up there and offer him everything you got. But I just don't know if Mike Zimmer, who I think likes being in that position where he's running a team, I don't know if he wants to come back and work under a guy like Zach Taylor, who's in his